Good afternoon. Welcome back to Near Post Flick On. So this summer window is just a transfer season that just keeps on giving. It keeps on giving, and it keeps on giving. Right. So Alexander Isak, as far as I'm aware, the player is entitled to want to leave the club. That's his right. If he feels that he's done enough for Newcastle, and if he feels that he's done and he's taken the club as far as he can, I think he should be afforded the opportunity to leave the club. Now that may come as a disappointment for some Newcastle supporters, for some of the Geordie fans. They may feel that he owes the club, but to be fair, he's won you guys a trophy. He's gotten you to the Champions League, and I think for a club like Newcastle, they've overachieved in the last couple of seasons. They've definitely overachieved. I think Eddie Howe has done phenomenal with that squad. And I think Isak has been absolutely brilliant. He's been absolutely fantastic. And I think at the age of 25, if he feels at the peak of his career, he wants to entertain other challenges or new challenges, I don't think the club should be a hindrance. Why would you want to block that for someone that's given you, consistency over 3 seasons? And I say consistency not just to throw it out there, but the guy has played 86 games for Newcastle and he's bagged 54 goals. So that's a fantastic return for a striker. Now, to put it into more context, right, so in season 2022-2023, he scored 10 Premier League goals. And as we know, scoring Premier League goals is not easy. It's difficult, right? So, but he's managed 10 Premier League goals in 2022-2023. And then in season 2023-2024, he scored 21 goals. So he's more than doubled his return from the previous season. So that's a level of consistency, And then in the season just ended, 2024-2025, he scored 23 goals. So he was just behind, I think, Mo Salah in second place in the Premier League. So that's a massive level of consistency, 23 goals in the Premier League is not easy. He scored more goals than Haaland. So it just shows you, and in some of the games he's played as well, he stepped up in some big games as well, and he scored some phenomenal goals. So there is no doubt in his talent. He is a very, very good player, and he's a phenomenal player. So I think he's earned his right to be able to say, you know what, I've been at Newcastle for X amount of years. I think, I've done the best I can. I've won you guys a trophy. I've got you into the Champions League. So at least let me fly my wings. Let me elevate my own career. Now, there are right ways and wrong ways of doing things. Yes, we understand that. But at the end of the day, the player is well within his right to want to look at other alternatives and try to progress himself and improve and test himself against the best. Now, we know that he's valued at 150 million. And yes, Liverpool can definitely afford it. I mean, there are a number of teams that can afford that, and there are a number of suitors for Isak. So, of course, Liverpool have got the money, PSG have the money, and Al Hilal definitely have the money. But I think if Isak were to leave Newcastle, I think his best option would probably be to go to Liverpool. Now, if Liverpool get Isak, I'm sorry, they're going to dominate the Premier League for another 5 years. That's how sick it is. It's probably going to be, if Isak goes to Liverpool, they will probably have one of the strongest squads ever assembled in Premier League history. Because if you look at the attacking setup, you've got Salah, you've got Wirtz, you've got Ikatike, and then you've got Isak if he goes. That's just crazy. I would be shitting it if I were a defender and having to go up against that, that quartet. It's just crazy. But I think, Newcastle should do the right thing and just sell the player. There's no point in keeping a player that doesn't want to be in your team anymore. If he doesn't want to play if he doesn't want to play for the club anymore, then I think the club should just respectfully honor it and just cash in, get the money, and just let him go. There's no point in keeping him there. He doesn't want to be there. He doesn't want to be at Newcastle. He's expressed that. He's handed in his transfer request, and he wants to go. So once a player decides that they don't want to be at the club anymore, I just don't understand why clubs always want to hold on to players that don't want to play for you anymore. Just let the man go. Let the player go. Doesn't want to play for you anymore. He's had enough. He wants to go to a different club. So let him do that. He's given you some great moments. He's given you some great moments. Cherish those moments and respect the player for what he's contributed to the club. And if he's decided that, my time is up and I want to go elsewhere, let him go elsewhere. There are players in Newcastle currently that probably earn more than he does, and he feels he probably has a lot more value. And I think he's looking for around maybe 300 grand a week. Now that's a lot of money, yes, but he is worth that money because he's done phenomenally well for the club. And again, he's backing it up with the performances he puts in, week out. He's backing it up with his statistics. The statistics that he has shows that he is a natural goal scorer. He can score inside the box, he can score headers, left foot, right foot, it just doesn't matter. That's how much of a quality player he is. Now, Arsenal missed a trick in not being able to get him, but I think once Liverpool entered the equation, I think, yes, Liverpool will probably get their man, but again, it's down to Newcastle. But if I were Newcastle, I'll just cash in, take the 150 million, and invest it in other players. You've still got the likes of Cisco around that they could possibly get as a replacement. Yes, he's not an Isak, but potentially he could become a great player when if he's given the time and if he kind of develops his abilities. But for now, though, I think Isak should be allowed by Newcastle to look for other options because the player wants to leave, and he feels that he's done the best he can at this point in time, and he wants to look elsewhere. So Newcastle, there's no point in keeping hold of a player that does not want to be at your club anymore. Just let him go. I know it will be disappointing for the staff and for the fans and the supporters alike, and maybe some of his fellow professional colleagues at Newcastle. But at the end of the day, you've got to move on if you feel the time is right. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.